It's not always as simple as Halo 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes long-standing game franchises can sprawl and spin off farther than big fans realize, making for shared universes that might come as a surprise.
The Uncharted and The Last of Us series are two of PlayStation's biggest and best first-party exclusives. But did you know that one is actually a sequel to the other? Well, kind of at least. In Uncharted 3, there's a newspaper with a headline reading, "Scientists are still struggling to understand the deadly fungus," an intentional reference to The Last of Us. At the time of Uncharted 3's release, however, The Last of Us had yet to be formally announced, and that newspaper wasn't actually supposed to remain in the game. Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann candidly told Kotaku, "We just completely forgot about it. We screwed up." Fortunately for them, they ended up getting away with it without spoiling their then upcoming announcement. French video game publisher Ubisoft made its reputation by developing some of the most immersive open-world games on the market, games that emphasize exploration and branching narratives over linear storytelling and guided adventures. It's no surprise then that Ubisoft would decide to set a few of their fan-favorite franchises in a shared universe, but the clues aren't always up front. Fortunately for us, the modern-day sequences of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag offer some clarity. Set in the offices of a video game development studio known as Abstergo Entertainment, a not-so-subtle front for Abstergo Industries, aka the Templar Order, the Assassin's rival faction, these sequences provide several distinct references to Ubisoft's Watch Dogs and Far Cry 3. For instance, the security systems presentation offers a blatant reference to the primary citywide hacking mechanic of Watch Dogs. Nowhere is our expertise more apparent than in our flagship product, CTOS, a groundbreaking proprietary security software operating system. Meanwhile, the Abstergo Entertainment database entry for Ocelot obliquely suggests that Far Cry 3, the video game itself, could actually be yet another virtual construct of the Animus.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Though we rarely see them together, the characters from Rare's Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, and Conker franchises all inhabit the same universe. Besides multiple Easter eggs hinting at the connection, the link between these three games is made explicit in Diddy Kong Racing, in which the titular character recruits the help of both Banjo the Bear and Conker the Squirrel to defeat an evil intergalactic wizard pig, appropriately named Whiz-Pig.
You can't beat me!
Unlike the Super Smash Bros. Series, which features Nintendo's superstar lineup of characters duking it out as toys, Diddy Kong Racing explicitly implies that Conker, Banjo, and the Kongs not only share the same universe, but actually might be neighbors. Rockstar Games' Western action-adventure Red Dead Redemption takes place in 1911. Their neo-noir action-adventure LA Noire takes place 36 years later, and you can bet your 10-gallon hat they share a universe. While playing LA Noire, not only can you uncover the iconic hat worn by Red Dead Redemption protagonist John Marston, you can also catch glimpses of his face on toast. Just chalk it up to a breakfast miracle.
With ample evidence of a UFO conspiracy that interlinks the background narratives of Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, it's safe to say that Rockstar Games is no stranger to shared game worlds. But did you know that Manhunt from Rockstar North was also set in the GTA universe? A variety of evidence suggests that it is, notably the very location of the game's controversial narrative. Manhunt takes place within the fictional setting of Carcer City, a ruthless lampoon of America's Rust Belt, where street gangs rule the night. GTA fans who paid enough attention will probably recognize Carcer City from one of its many subtle appearances in the series. It's been mentioned at least once in every Grand Theft Auto release since GTA 3, including the story spin-offs developed for handheld consoles.
In nearby Carcer City, a good day for law and order as Police Chief Gary Shaver was cleared of corruption charges.
And if there was any doubt, James Earl Cash, Manhunt's sociopathic protagonist, appears on wanted posters within the Grand Theft Auto universe, most notably in locations like the police department in San Andreas. Crime might not pay, but in Rockstar's shared worlds, it'll definitely make you famous. With its focus on a single-player campaign, Battlefield Bad Company from DICE was a bit of a departure from the tried-and-true formula of the fan-favorite FPS franchise in 2008. But the game's humorous narrative, along with its introduction of highly destructible environments, made it a smash hit. GameSpot called it, quote, "quite simply one of the most fun shooters released that year." DICE was also responsible for Mirror's Edge Catalyst, the 2016 sequel of their unique sci-fi action platformer, also from 2008. Catalyst expanded the story and gameplay of the original and took a few narrative liberties in its effort to round out the lore behind Faith Connors and her death-defying run through the city. DICE looked into their previous titles to establish a real-world element for the dystopian future of Mirror's Edge by placing the boys from Bad Company directly into the expanded narrative of Catalyst via audio files.
And you just called Gabriel Kruger Gabe.
Yeah? We're on first-name basis. And it's a bromance. You know.
Valve Corporation's legendary first-person shooter Half-Life changed the video game industry forever when it hit personal computers in 1998. It tells the heart-pounding story of theoretical physicist Gordon Freeman and his dimension-shattering discoveries at the Black Mesa Research Facility. And curiously enough, Black Mesa would prove to be part of the game's connective tissue to another Valve title, Portal, the award-winning 3D puzzle platformer released in 2007. Portal takes players on a wild ride through the Aperture Science Laboratories as they try to unravel the enigmas of the artificial intelligence known as GLaDOS and learn for themselves that the cake is a lie. Astute gamers will recognize oblique clues in GLaDOS' dialogue that reference the events of Half-Life, along with a tongue-in-cheek PowerPoint presentation. Furthermore, Aperture founder Cave Johnson mentions his Black Mesa rivals by name multiple times in Portal 2. Whether or not industrial espionage is healthy for business, it's certainly made for one sweet spin-off.
Dave Johnson, new owner and CEO of Black Mesa. That's right, you've been bought. First order of business, we're renaming you under the Aperture brand.
While discussing shared universes on his podcast, the Fulbright Company co-founder Steve Gaynor explained how Gone Home and Bioshock actually take place in the same universe. In Bioshock 2's DLC, Minerva's Den, you can find and play a fictional, vector graphics asteroids-esque title called Spitfire. Some 50 years later in Gone Home, you can uncover various faux Super Nintendo cartridges in Sam's room, including one for Super Spitfire. Close inspection reveals the game within a game was actually published by none other than Minerva's Den protagonist Charles Milton Porter. Gaynor also mentioned some other connections. The airline that Katie takes to go to Europe, we never named the airline, but their logo is an 80s brand update to the airline that Jack's plane crashes into Rapture. The Blazkowicz family has a fairly storied history of violence, and it all canonically starts with the Nazi massacring protagonist William J. Blazkowicz in 1992's Wolfenstein 3D, which occurs during World War II. After the family surname is changed to Blaze, his grandson and namesake stars in 1990's sci-fi-themed Commander Keen series under the name Billy Blaze. And then there's the Harbinger of Doom, a big baddie who gets his left arm and right leg maimed by BJ in Wolfenstein RPG. He vows to torment the Blazkowicz family for all eternity, and apparently does just that, appearing centuries later in multiple Doom games as the formidable Cyber Demon, hobbling on one robotic leg and swinging one robotic arm. So it's safe to assume that the heroic Doom guy is actually himself a Blazkowicz, thus tying together all three of id Software's famous franchises. On the surface, Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X-2 couldn't appear more different. The world of Final Fantasy VII is largely dominated by the Shinra Electric Power Company, which uses the planet's own life force to create an energy source. The world of Final Fantasy X-2 isn't. But that's because it's apparently a prequel. Yep, at the end of Final Fantasy X-2, players can activate a cutscene by talking to someone who claims to be researching the planet's life force, which he hopes to someday harness and fuel cities with. And guess what the boy's name is? That's right, Shinra. Sure, Final Fantasy games have a habit of reusing character names, but this seems too plot-specific to be just a coincidence.
Sweet!
The Callisto Protocol is a survival horror game set in the furthest reaches of outer space. The game places players in the shoes of a prisoner in Black Iron, a prison located on Jupiter's moon Callisto. When aliens attack the facility, it's up to the prisoner to fight the invasion and get out alive. Developed by Striking Distance and directed by Dead Space co-creator Glenn Schofield, the terrifying-looking game seems like a far cry from the setting of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. However, as a Striking Distance rep confirmed for IGN, the two games are actually linked by a shared universe. In an interview with Games Radar, Schofield said that although a few hundred years and plenty of space separates PUBG and the Callisto Protocol, hardcore fans would most likely be able to pick up on the references to the wider PUBG universe throughout the game. Schofield explained, We're helping PUBG Core right now as a team of writers, working on the lore for PUBG and its universe. It's not going to be really deep, but there will be little connections here and there. Remedy Entertainment's connected universe is more intricate than many fans realize. Remedy's 2010 game Alan Wake is a bizarre trip through alternate dimensions. As the title character searches for his missing wife, he begins to see elements of a story he wrote coming to life. Did you know references to Mr. Wake have shown up in Remedy's newer titles? Quantum Break, released in 2016, features several callbacks to Alan Wake. For instance, a chalkboard in the game seems to describe events from Alan Wake. Not only that, another Easter egg revealed live-action footage of Alan Wake himself. Then came 2019's Control. Through documents discovered during Control, players learn that the game's Federal Bureau of Control investigated the events of Alan Wake, but unfortunately didn't find much. Footage of Alan can also be found in a hidden area of the game. Finally, Control's AWE expansion brought Bureau Director Jess Faden into conflict with Emil Hartman, a mad psychologist with ties to Alan and Alice Wake. The Malaysia-inspired island of Panau is the setting of Just Cause 2, the 2010 open-world action-adventure game from Avalanche Studios and Eidos Interactive. It tells a continuing story of chaotic hero Rico Rodriguez and his battle against some of the world's craziest militant dictators. Interestingly enough, Panau also makes a subtle appearance in Sleeping Dogs, the Hong Kong-based action-adventure from United Front Games and Eidos parent publisher Square Enix. One Easter egg from Sleeping Dogs definitively places these two games in the same universe. If your timing and radio station are correct, you'll hear a fun little advertisement that shouts out the familiar setting of Just Cause 2.
For a relaxing getaway, visit the island of Panau, an exotic location where beauty and luxury are an everyday pleasure.
First released on Xbox Live Arcade in February 2011, Hardcore Uprising is a Konami-published run-and-gun video game that feels a lot like Contra. Because it is. In fact, the game is not so secretly the 13th installment in the Contra franchise. Game producer Kenji Yamamoto told Silicon Era in 2010, "The game is really inspired by Contra Hardcore, and it seems to be a direct prequel, as one of the playable protagonists of Hardcore Uprising, a soldier named Bahamut, later becomes the big bad guy Colonel Bahamut in Contra Hardcore." Although you wouldn't know it from any of their recent installments, Lode Runner and Bomberman actually stem from the same universe. In fact, Lode Runner is Bomberman. The proof comes from the ending of the original version of Bomberman on the Nintendo Famicom, which shows the robotic Bomberman escaping from bondage and becoming human. But not just any human, he becomes the Lode Runner himself. Therefore, the original Bomberman is technically the prequel to the original Lode Runner, which itself features a whole slew of Bomberman sprites. Since then, the two series have gone their separate ways, but they'll forever be linked by a long-forgotten metamorphosis.
What took you so long?
What took you so long?
What took you so long?
Japanese video game designer Hideo Kojima likes to fill his games with Easter eggs, and that's why his graphic adventure game Policenauts offers plenty of clues that it shares a universe with Snatcher and Metal Gear Solid. Policenauts has tons of Snatcher references. In addition to a few direct cameos from the cyberpunk adventure game, there's a Snatcher calendar in Jun Ishida's office, and Victor Jurgens uses the same brand of sunscreen found in both games. There's also a Snatcher target in the police station's shooting range that plays a remixed version of the game's Pressure of Tension song when it's hit. In Metal Gear Solid, you can find two promotional posters for Policenauts in the nuclear warhead storage building, with a third popping up in Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Drebin893 drinks a soda called Narc, which is named after the addictive drug in Policenauts, and there's even a bar named after Solid Snake in Policenauts Old LA. And that's just scratching the surface of the cosmic clues. Happy hunting! The Red Faction series from Volition and THQ tells the story of the titular faction's resistance against the oppressive reign of the nefarious Ultor Corporation, set amidst a sci-fi future of dystopian proportions. Meanwhile, the Saints Row series from Volition and THQ, along with later-day publisher Deep Silver, chronicles the story of the Third Street Saints, a street gang turned global crime organization who face rival criminals and corrupt law enforcement during their ongoing slapstick quest for domination. While the first game in this series was a relatively straightforward GTA clone, later entities, well, they got a little wild.
You can't kill me. My people will avenge my death.
Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
As luck and the cheeky developers of Volition would have it, the events of the Red Faction series actually take place in the future of the Saints Row universe, and the nefarious Ultor Corporation is the link.
The Ultor Corporation has been using a secret R&D lab to conduct unethical experiments on the citizens of Stillwater.
In case you missed it, the episodic expansion packs Ultor Exposed and Corporate Warfare for Saints Row 2 are probably the most overt references to Red Faction's big bad adversaries in the Saints series. The first of these two DLC packs lays the groundwork for exposing the Megacorp's seedy operations, while the second installment offers players a chance to, quote, put a permanent end to Ultor's corruption head-on. The results, one of the craziest canonical crossovers in video game history. The science fiction stylings of Nier Automata from Platinum Games and publisher Square Enix seem like a far cry from the medieval fantasy of Drakengard from Caviar Inc. and Macrospace. But these two action RPGs are separated by a lengthy span of sequels and studio changeovers, so they actually exist squarely in the same universe. The description of Nier Automata on the game's official website tells us its story takes place in the distant future. That future is, in fact, the far-flung time period following the events of Drakengard, which chronicles the dark fantasy story of the deposed Prince Kaim, and his efforts to stop the malevolent Watchers from destroying the world. Game scholars understand the E-ending of Drakengard, in which Kaim and his Dragonpal Angelus travel across a dimensional boundary to fight the Queen Grotesquerie in modern-day Tokyo, to be the canonical ending that leads into the 2010 hack-and-slash RPG Nier, which is itself a direct forerunner of Nier Automata. Don't worry if you're confused, you're not the only one. In Nier Automata, quote, mankind is driven from Earth and takes refuge on the moon. Now with the full history laid out before us, we finally understand that particular Earth to be the alternate history Earth of Drakengard, known as Midgard.